Good day, folks. Welcome to Deep Tech Gaming, where we explore the newest trends in the space of game development through the lens of up-and-coming studios. So today I'm joined by Kieran Warwick. He's the co-founder of Illuvium, which is a decentralized studio building an open-world exploration game, industrial city builder, and autobattler on the Ethereum blockchain. Illuvium has a heavy emphasis on AAA gameplay and graphics, with a massive community behind it and a diverse set of contributors. Kieran's been building in the blockchain gaming space for a lot longer than most, and continues to be one of the most vocal proponents of adopting deep tech in games. So with that, we're very excited to have Kieran on today to explore the Illuvium universe and some of the deep tech integrations that they're building out to support the vision. So Kieran, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sam. Happy to be here.
All right. Well, digging right into the good stuff. What's the core loop of Illuvium? What gets people excited about it? What can they look forward to?
So it's kind of interesting. We've got this overarching core loop, which it can be played via 3 different games, right? Like you just mentioned. You can start your journey in Illuvium 0. You can start building up your industrial complex, and the idea is to gather as many resources as possible to then take them into the overworld. And those resources are what you need for things like crafting weapons, capturing alluvials, and every single thing that every interaction that you have in that overworld is powered by that fuel. Then once you've captured the alluvials and you find that you've got a strong team composition, that's when you can go into our 3rd game, which is Illuvium Arena, and you can start battling them. It's more of a competitive landscape. There's a little bit of esports in there, where we're going to have tournaments which you can play online against your friends and stuff like that, with large scale prize money. And so that's obviously inside each of the games, they have their own core loop, but the sort of eye-opening thing that we can do with blockchain tech and the use of NFTs is we can allow those different assets to be usable across multiple games, and that creates in its own sense a core gameplay loop, which I don't think I've seen that ever before in a gaming universe.
I think it's such an exciting take, because what you end up with is kind of like a meta game on top of a meta game on top of a meta game even. So you have these different like onion type layers within the gameplay here. And when players first enter it, how far away are we in terms of development? What can people play today? What can they play in the near future? What does that kind of look like?
So everything is in private beta or alpha testing at the moment. If in terms of Illuvium 0, if you own a land plot, you're able to go in and start playing. And for the first time, actually, we just released our season 1, which actually allows you to collect blueprints.
Nice.
Those blueprints are super important for making things like skins for your ranger and your Mozart drone in the overworld. So little bit of a nod to those guys for hanging on to their land for so long, to say now you can actually derive some real world value from that. And overworld, we just went into private beta 2. That includes 3 regions. We're going to go into public beta with only 3 regions, so there won't be any more until we get to that public stage. But you can jump in. We're giving away. We've got 75,000 spots that are available. So just jump into the website, register there, and you potentially gain private beta access. And then Arena, where we just updated that as well, and there's a bunch of new alluvials. There's some new in-game mechanics. It's a little bit more polished and balanced, and all of this is going live at the end of this year.
Nice.
So that's super exciting. We've been building for 2.5, nearly 3 years now, and we're 6 months away from going live.
You know, game development timelines are always finicky because I think that we're all just excited to get in and play. Everybody is just, really raring at the bit here. And the question that I always like to ask developers, right, is like, what gets you personally most excited about this? You know, what's your favorite feature if you had one, without trying to offend any of your internal devs? Picking sides here, obviously. But what gets you most excited to step into Illuvium?
Well, I'm a huge TFT fan, so that's Teamfight Tactics. It's built by Riot, and I've been playing that game for what must be like 7 years now, and I love the competitive aspect of it. We have an internal game night every week, and we have a bunch of our devs that join it. And for me, I think when we launch PvP, we'll honestly have a product that can rival that. And that's what gets me most excited, being able to tap into a market of 20 to 30 million active players.
Sure.
And say to them, this is a game that's just as competitive, it's just as fun and challenging, except you're bringing in assets that you actually own. And that aha moment that I had years ago with respect to ownership in gaming, I think it will be an easy entry for those people if they're playing a game that's just as fun. And then it's an afterthought of going, oh wow, actually there's a marketplace where I can sell these things. Like, what's going on? I'm going to dig deeper here.
I like to think about it sometimes as if this whole time we've been playing PC games as if we're like renting Pokemon cards. Like we go to a Pokemon tournament, we're all playing cards, and we're like renting the cards. We don't own them, But then now with the advent of blockchain technology, we own the cards, right? They're actually ours. We can take them home. We can, trade them to our friends, etc. And I love how you've tied that into the core fantasy here with this like layers of ownership on top of the different metagames. Some simpler questions. What platforms, is Illuvium going to be available on? What types of machines will people need to play it? Walk through those.
Yeah, so PC and Mac for Overworld and Arena. You're probably going to want a decent machine to play Overworld specifically. It's pretty intense when it comes to graphics and processing requirements. In terms of Arena, we're looking to port it over to mobile as soon as possible. It won't be on launch, but probably sometime next year. And then Illuvium Zero, you can play on mobile. It's now available in beta form, or alpha form, sorry, on Android, but it will quickly be available on iOS once we go live.
Awesome. And then a question that always comes up as soon as you have blockchain tech of any kind, these ownership loops and the econ system that you guys have set up. Can you talk through that at a high level? Things that make you excited, things you think people should understand, maybe any misconceptions around it as well. What does that kind of look like from your perspective, the econ of Illuvium?
So the super exciting thing for us is we've built the economy to be it's a supply and demand curve, right? And it feeds into the overworld interaction. So again, everything that you need to do is to travel to a region, to forge a weapon or a piece of armor, to cure a shard, which is effectively like your Pokeball, to be able to go out into the one of the regions and capture an alluvial. All of these interactions will cost you some resources, right? And to get those resources, what we call fuel, you need to be generating it in Illuvium Zero. And so it's set up this system where we've got a balancer pool in the background. And this is not, it gets a little bit complex, but this is not seen by the user, right? They're just essentially selling their fuel into the pool and receiving ETH back. And then they can use that ETH to then go do those interactions, right? And so the cool thing about it, though, is depending on the supply and the demand, the prices will fluctuate. So you get this real world economy, which it's obviously been done in gaming before. And I find that it makes it super dynamic. It's really fun to go in there. And if you're a Illuvium Zero landowner and you can see, oh, the price of fuel for traveling has gone up ridiculously high because there's not much supply there, you can come in and say, well, I've been hoarding that up and now I'm going to make a big chunk of money from selling that into people. But if you do that, you're going to flood the market. And then all of a sudden, people who have been holding off from traveling on the other side in the overworld are thinking, wow, now it's really cheap to travel. I'm going to get in there, try and capture as many alluvials as possible. And so you get this balancing act. And we think that inside the game is another economic metagame in itself, which will be just as fun as playing the rest of the competitive landscape and stuff like that.
I mean, as someone who grew up, obsessively trading the RuneScape exchange and the World of Warcraft auction house, I'm a big fan of econ metagames on top of stuff. So I'm sure that you guys took inspiration, from a number of the greats while you were putting it together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so a question kind of bridging off of that, right? So what can free-to-play folks expect? What will that look like, as they say, for ordinary Web 2 folks who want to enter into the Illuvium, experience? What can they expect?
So in terms of Illuvium 0, you can play, you can go all the way through. You can't actually earn fuel, but you can build up your complex. And this, Illuvium 0 for me is not really an idle clicker on my mobile. It's not something that gets me super excited, but there's tens of millions of people out there where it does. And that's not including this ability for your resources to be connected to a real world economy. And, I think there's going to be thousands and thousands and thousands of people that will just go through that journey, not even realize they're playing a crypto game, and then think, oh, wow, if I buy a land plot, I can actually turn my resources into this real world money that I can sell to these other players. And then same thing with the overworld. We give you the ability to go in there. You can actually capture tier 0 alluvials that are NFTs. So you get that taste of they're obviously going to be in abundance because millions of people can jump in there and you don't need to spend any money to travel to those regions. It's completely free to play, but you get a taste of seeing those NFTs in your wallet. And who knows, at the start, they might have a small amount of value because there are some people that don't want to go and grind and get those tier 0s, which everyone needs to do in that overworld experience before you can get through to the higher regions and start actually using your team to capture like tier 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s and 5s. And so we give you a little taste there, and then the arena, same thing. There'll be the ability to play in a mode that's free to play. It doesn't cost you anything, and we will give you some basic alluvials to start fighting with. And we basically want a frictionless onboarding process where every one of our games gives access to people free to play,
Sure,
but also teaching them at the same time and trying to give them a little taste of here's what fuel would be like, or here's what having an alluvial captured would be like, and here's the marketplace you can sell, you know what I mean? So there's little odes to what blockchain and Web3 gaming, whatever you want to call it, can offer you, but we're not shoving it in your face and saying, you can earn life-changing money from playing our games. It's just not how we do it.
I like that angle. I mean, I think that as you guys come online towards the end of this year, we're going to start to see this kind of wave of properly constructed games with properly constructed onboarding processes, and really see what the public thinks, about both the gameplay direction as well as the ownership mechanics. One topic that comes up often nowadays is AI, and I like to pair that with a discussion on UGC. Do you guys in any capacity leverage AI either in your constructive process or in actual gameplay dynamics? And does that tie into any component of, user-generated content inside of the Illuvium universe?
We've started testing it out. So the game design team, in terms of things like quests and NPCs and like user feedback that comes back, we've started using it. We would definitely be amiss if we didn't, right? And Aaron, who is the game director, he's a massive fan of AI, and he's always looking up different stuff that's bleeding edge and coming out. And so where we probably haven't used it as much as I think we likely will in the future is more on the art side of things, because we have such high fidelity graphics. It's not quite there yet to say like, hey, create an alluvial and it can just model an alluvial immediately, so
I mean, you guys have the super weapon that is Grant back there, right? Who creates the majority of these awesome figures left and right?
Yeah, so we're a ways away from that, and but it's definitely starting to filter through our work processes, and we're adding it in where we can, because it's just so powerful. Even in marketing, we're starting to use it across the board. Like it's been a huge help for us. We've downsized our marketing team by half, and I believe we're just as effective at the moment, and it's utilizing things like Chat GPT and stuff like that to ensure that we can still stay just as productive.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I think that will start to help swing the pendulum a little bit more in the favor of the indie and upcoming studios away from the AAAs, just because you don't have to lose so many resources in that direction, right? Which makes hopefully the gameplay better at the end of the day, as you guys can allocate more in that direction.
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
A couple, final wrapping up questions here. Around competitive gaming in particular. So you guys, as a game that does have an angle, towards PvP, etc. What's your take on esports? Where do you sit maybe with respect to the esports teams or just esports ideas in general? How do you feel about that inside the universe of Illuvium?
So we signed our first, we've actually got two in the pipeline that are at contract stage, where we're starting to work out what's the agreement, which players do we want to start utilizing inside their organizations, and they're in the top 10 largest esports organizations, which is pretty cool, because we started talking to these guys about a year and a half ago now, and we probably would have signed by now, but there was the whole crash, and they're very protective, and so they sort of took a step back. Now we've been talking to them again for the last 3 or 4 months, and we're getting very, very close to working out exactly what that deal is going to be. But it's a huge proponent of our strategy in terms of marketing, and we want to not only leverage the esporting teams, but we want to be able to tap into their communities. That's where we think the real value is, right? Like where they're members of these esporting organizations, maybe their favorite player is in the game that they play is part of that organization. And so partnering up with these guys gives us access to tens of millions of players. And the really cool thing is they've segmented their audiences, right? Based on the games that you enjoy, right? Like the onboarding process is very much, which game do you like playing? What genre of gaming do you like playing? Who's your favorite esports team? And so it's like a marketer's dream, right? For us, we're sitting there like, how do we go and target a specific segment of the market? In our case, TFT, Pokemon, different games like that. We can literally go to these teams and say, we want to just hit the TFT players to start off with. And in some cases, they're like, okay, you're looking at, we've got 3.5 million that we can go out to that we know said they play TFT, they love it, and this is their favorite player. And we're like, boom, so utilizing their communities with that. And then also, obviously, things like sponsorship of the overall team to get exposure and merchandise and stuff like that.
I love and as someone who spends a phenomenal amount of time in gaming on both sides of building and writing checks for it, I think that it's really, really important that we have more of this kind of mature direction in the industry with respect to advertisement, sponsorships, user segregation, targeting, etc. It pushes the envelope so much more on what's possible for studios like you guys to really, really get the word out there quickly. And I think what I want to wrap up with is really advice, from you to other folks, people who may be building in game development or blockchain game development, just in that direction. If someone is starting out, what would you tell them? What would you tell yourself, years ago? What would it be?
Spend as much time as you can on sourcing a really good team, right? And give them the vision that you have in place, the long-term vision. It's not easy to get people to go from just like it's not easy to get a mainstream gamer to say, hey, I love NFT gaming now. It's not easy to get a team across from AAA studios that have been building in that space for 10 years, then to say, hey, come over to this crazy crypto blockchain world of gaming that is in its very, very infant stages. So spend as much time as possible as getting that core team together. And once you've assembled that, the dominoes will start flowing after that, where there's network effects even amongst recruiting, where you have more and more people that will say, well, I used to work with him and I know he's a gun, and there must be some reason that he's gone into blockchain. And then once you build that out, you've got the building blocks to start, doing whatever you need to do when it comes to designing games and building things like that. That core team is imperative.
It's phenomenal advice. I couldn't agree with you more as well, by the way. I think that is something that unfortunately sometimes gets rushed over because people are in a rush to launch, etc. But yeah, you're entirely right. Time spent on the team will never be wasted. Well, with that, Kieran, thanks a ton for coming out. What can people look forward to, in the next couple of months on Illuvium? Where can they find you, follow you, etc.? Any alpha for the folks, as they say.
So on the 12th, we've actually got a partnership with GameStop where we have 20,000 Illuvitar discs that we're selling. So
Nice.
that's really awesome. That's like our first little foray into Web 2, which is super exciting for us. And outside of that, just register on the website. You might join the beta. We're adding more and more people every single day. If you want to follow me, I'm Kieran Warwick on Twitter. That's where I'm most active. And then definitely join the Discord.
All right. Well, Kieran, thanks a bunch for coming out. This was a ton of fun, and I'm personally excited to play the game too. So looking forward to see what you guys push up.
Cheers. Thanks, Sam. Appreciate it.